Today we're looking at Robert Oster's Cherry Blossom. Hi, I'm Adam and I'm an ink guy. I get inks, test them, and share the results with you. Now Robert Oster's Cherry Blossom is a pink ink. To make sure I have a range of writing experience with this ink, what I do is the writing samples. I then put it into a different pen for a day. I then put it into a Noodler's Nibcreaper to take my notes for this video. But before we get to the writing samples, let's look at the sciencey bits. Up first is the chromatography, and I agree with Vita that doing multiple chromatographies has taught me a lot. The one on the left is done the way it's supposed to be done, and we see it immediately is pushing up the page, leaving a light pink behind all the way up until almost at the end when it gets to be a much darker pink, and interestingly, a very light highlighter blue is coming through at the top. The one on the right is The one on the right I let dry for 10 minutes before I dunk it into water. Now it is immediately pushing up the page, but we see a lot more left behind. It's darker. It doesn't travel as high. So given some dry time, it's not going to move as far. But the behavior is the same. It's pink most of the way up, a dark pink towards the top, then a very faint but noticeable super light blue at the top. It's like a highlighter blue. Resistance tests are done to see how this ink will be expected to hold up on the paper, and more importantly, how hard it is to clean out of your pens. Now I let the smear dry for 3 days before I test it. Looking at the highlighter, I wouldn't use it because the second H got mushed together. It bled together, it became unreadable as a letter, and I would worry about that happening to important writing. Although the rest of the letters did perfectly fine. This is absolutely explainable when we see water. I put a drop of water for 30 seconds and it is gone. Completely obliterated. Absolutely off the paper. So as you would expect when I put the pen flesh down, we got the same result, and bleach, the same result. This just means that water is all that it would take to get this ink out of your pen. For the inks I've tested, I have found an average viscosity of 2.5, with normal being from 2.1 to 2.9. Robert Oster's Cherry Blossom has a viscosity of 1.98, which makes it a wetter ink. Certainly a wetter ink. It's wet. It's in that orange area, but nowhere near the water area. To find my average dry time, I use my writing samples done with the extra fine and medium nib on Clairefontaine, Tomoe River, and Rhodia paper. For the inks I've tested, I have found an average dry time of 17 seconds, with the realm of normal being from 13 to 21 seconds. Robert Oster's Cherry Blossom has a dry time of 12 seconds, which makes it a faster drying ink. With being very wet and fast drying like this, that's a neat combination. That's pretty good. Now, let's take a look at the writing sample. So I got this ink in sample form. And to keep my writing samples consistent, I use a Jinhao 159 with a Goulet 1.1 stub, a Jinhao X450 with a Goulet medium, and a Jinhao X750 with a Goulet extra fine. Let's look at Clairefontaine. We get no bleeding, no ghosting, lots of problems with dealing with stuff today. Sorry. You're going to see I have had a hard morning with this stuff. The 1.1 gives us no feather, no spread, no halo, no sheen, minor points of shading. Little too light a tone for me, but it does have some shading in there, so if that's the kind of pink you like, go for it. It's nice. Just too light for me. The extra fine gives us no feather, no spread, no halo, no sheen, tons of shading. The whole way through shading. 8 seconds to dry. Medium, same story. No feather, no spread, no halo, no sheen, shade. All over the place. 11 seconds to dry. The extra fine and the medium scrubby show us that we're going to get color variation. No problems there. The smear test, the most interesting thing here is being a very light ink, you don't expect to be able to actually recover it. I believe I could recover this if I smeared it. So I went to Tomoe River, where I got no bleeding, I got ghosting. The 1.1 gave us no feather, no spread. It does give halo. It gives quite a bit of haloing around, which is very nice to help it come out. Still too light a tone for me. It gives little bits of color variation, not tons. The extra fine gives us no feather, no spread. some haloing through. Some haloing through all the writing. No sheen. No real color variation here. 13 seconds to dry. Medium gives us no feather, no spread. We have no halo. We have no color variation. We have 18 seconds to dry. The scrubby of the medium shows us we're not going to get any color variation. The scrubby of the extra fine shows color variation if you look at it far left to far right, but not as a whole. That's why we don't see tons of it through the extra fine, but we do get color variation in the writing. Not as drastic in the scrubby. The smear said you should have wrote it on something other than Tomoe River. So Rhodia paper had no bleeding, no ghosting. The 1.1 had no feather, no spread. No real haloing. We didn't get the haloing here that we got before. No real color variation on this paper. And no sheen. The extra fine has no feather, no spread, no halo, no sheen. It definitely shows color variation all the way through the writing. 8 seconds to dry. And at this point I go, because I record these in the mornings before I go off to work, and so it's often my first writing of the day. And problems with writing. I just couldn't do it. But I'm using a Nibcreaper here, and when I use a pen where I can really control how much ink I'm putting down, it really does make a difference. You get a ton of color variation through all of this ink, which makes it really, really nice. I put on this that this makes me like pink ink. And I haven't not enjoyed pink inks because it's pink, but I haven't enjoyed. There's a lot of pink inks that I'm not going to do reviews of because they're just too light to deal with. That's not the case here, and you get a ton of shading. So I go to the medium. The medium gives us no feather, no spread, no halo, no sheen. Definitely get color variation through it. Not as much color variation as we got with the extra fine. Not as much color variation as I got with the Nibcreaper in my notes, but I definitely have it. All the way through the writing. It's just a darker pink to a much darker pink. 12 seconds to dry. Now when I look at the scrubby, the extra fine shows us how much color variation we're going to get. The medium shows us that we do get color variation. We just have to focus a little more far left to far right to be able to see it all. And this is again neat. If I smear it while I'm writing, I can recover that. You don't get that a lot with light toned inks. A lot of times they just get lost for being so light, and it doesn't happen here. So I went and I looked at black and red paper. Black and red paper gave us no bleeding, no ghosting. The 1.1 gave us no feather, no spread, no halo, no sheen, no shade. Too light a tone for me still. It's not bad, it's just too light for me. The extra fine gives us no feather, no spread, no halo, no sheen. Definitely giving us shading throughout the writing sample, which is not a lot on this paper. It doesn't always happen on this paper because it tends to absorb it just a little bit faster. 7 seconds to dry. Medium gives us no feather, no spread, no halo, no sheen, and definite color variation the whole way through with 9 seconds to dry. The scrubby shows us exactly what we got in the writing sample, that we're going to get plenty of color variation with this ink, and the smear test, you could likely recover this if you did smear it. So I checked the Limon paper, which I'm just trying to find an ink at this point that'll work. And it bleeds. It doesn't touch the page underneath, but it definitely bleeds. It doesn't ghost, but it bleeds a lot. The 1.1 gives us definite spread, definite ghosting. Definite spread, definite feather. No halo, no sheen, no shade, and a lighter pink. The extra fine gives us definite spread, definite feathering, all over the place. It's a flock of birds. No halo, no sheen, no shade, 6 seconds to dry. The medium gives us definite spread, definite feathers, like crazy. It looks blurry. No halo, no sheen, no shade in the medium, 7 seconds to dry. Looking at the scrubby, on the extra fine, I do see color variation. I get it in the writing. The medium shows color variation, but I really don't get it in the writing. And the smear test for both shows I could recover it. And I thought it would just be fun to go ahead and test it on that Elon notebook, the job notebooks. And look at that. It did not bleed like crazy. It did bleed, yes. Not like crazy, not horribly. It didn't ghost. The 1.1 gave us no feather, no spread, no halo, no sheen, no shade. The extra fine gave us no feather, no spread, no halo, no sheen, no shade, and 1 second to dry. The medium gave us no feathering, no spread, no halo, no sheen, no shade, 3 seconds to dry. And when I look at the scrubby on this, neither of them give color variation. Both of them you could recover if you smeared, but this is not really fountain pen friendly paper. But it did very well. I kept saying no feather, no spread. Yeah, no, it actually performed very, very well, considering how cheap the paper is. You know, I'm saying no feather because, well, if you put it under a microscope, you'd probably be able to see that, yes, there's tiny feathers. It's not going to stop you from recovering any of this. This ink on this paper did spectacular. I think this is one of the only inks that actually did this well on this notebook. Now, I don't know that I want to have to write with this pink ink all the time, but this is not a bad pink. It's definitely something to look at. This is what I have for the writing sample. Instead of finding inks that look like Robert Oster's Cherry Blossom, I would prefer to find an ink that complements its color on the page. So I chose Diamine's Saddle Brown because I felt that nice dark brown really would work with this brighter pink. Before I give my opinion on this ink, I would ask if you've enjoyed the video, give it a thumbs up. And if it's your first time here, I would invite you to subscribe. So what do I think of Robert Oster's Cherry Blossom? I think this is an award-winning pink ink. If there were awards given, this one should get it. It's amazing in what it's doing. There's 2 pinks in a relatively short time I have found that are standout fantastic. In fact, I did not like using pink inks because I always found them too light until I found this one. This is the pink ink that actually got me to like pink inks. Thanks for watching.